Storm damage, the NRL brings Melbourne to its knees over its salary cap rort.
The elaborate lengths that they went to hide the payments was quite extraordinary.
We have all the fallout and look at what damage this will do the game. Plus an urgent health warning, 45 children in hospital after having the flu jab. A couple is tonight charged with assaulting and robbing a 96-year-old wheelchair-bound digger. And our favourite ogre, donkey and cat are back.
Sometimes I wish I had just one day to feel like a real ogre again.
This is Nightline with Kelly Conroy.
Good evening. The game of rugby league will never be the same. In a sport so frequently plagued by scandals, this is the biggest of them all. Star-studded team, the Melbourne Storm, has been punished severely after confessing to brazen rorting of the salary cap. To summarise, the Storm has been stripped of the 2007 and 2009 premierships. It has to hand back $1 million in prize money, pay a $500,000 fine. Points earned so far in 2010 have been deducted and the team can't accrue any further points this season. The club's magnificent but brief history is now virtually wiped out.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us on what is a terribly sad day for rugby league. I mean, you've watched the Melbourne Storm in all the last 4 or 5 years. You've watched them win 3 minor premierships, 2 comps they've won, and all of a sudden the dream ends. And we find out they've been rorting the system and cheating.
It's a scandal difficult to fathom. The NRL told the Melbourne Storm of its fate in private, the club's management desperate to escape. They were in no mood to talk. An hour later, everyone understood why. NRL Chief Executive David Gallop delivered a punishment he felt fitted the crime.
The penalty will be the stripping of 3 minor premierships and 2 premierships. The return of $1.1 million in prize money that will be distributed to the other 15 clubs evenly. A fine of $500,000. In the 2010 season, all competition points earned thus far will be taken away and the team shall not accrue any further points in the 2010 season.
The Storm is the first team ever to be stripped of a premiership. Its 2010 season is effectively over for what can only be described as cheating.
The Storm has engaged in a long-term system of operating what might conveniently be called 2 sets of books.
The dream team, studded with stars, didn't come cheap. The Storm management confessed it had secretly paid out $1.7 million in the past 5 years.
The elaborate lengths that they went to hide the payments was quite extraordinary.
The incriminating details were stashed in secret files in a separate room at the club's headquarters, far away from the players' legitimate contracts.
These payments have allowed them to recruit and retain some of the best players in the game. The results of their practices on the field speak for themselves.
The club's owners, News Limited, learnt the extent of the rorts 3 days ago.
I certainly feel angry. I feel very, very disappointed. And quite frankly, I feel sick in my stomach by it.
John Hartigan said it was a fraudulent act and he wants the police involved.
We have stood down 2 members of the senior management team within Storm.
He also pointed the finger at former Chief Executive Brian Waldron, who quit the club earlier this year. Storm players appeared to be in shock as they left training.
Disappointing for everyone, but that's other comments that you made from other people. I thought that.
The team had gained a following in the AFL heartland, but one now former fan quickly made his feelings clear, dumping all his Storm memorabilia in garbage bags on the club's doorstep. Others insist they'll remain loyal.
And I love those guys, and I will continue to love those guys. But if Cameron, Billy and all the rest of them decide they want to go off to England and make a lot more money, I can't blame them at all.
Are they cheaters?
Well, the CEO of Brian Waldron, yes, but definitely not the players.
It's not the players' fault. I mean, some might have known what was going on, but I'm sure the majority of them didn't. At the end of the day, it's the people in the top places that did the wrong thing, and they should be the one punished.
fans from other clubs were disgusted.
You did the crime, you did the time, that's it. They cheated the cap, that's it. You know, they've got to pay the penalty now.
Every time that those Melbourne players look at those premiership winning tattoos, they should feel good about themselves.
The Brisbane captain defended the players.
You know, individually they wouldn't have known what was going on.
League great Wally Lewis says the entire code is tarnished.
Is this happening in every club? Because the suggestions are that this could well be going on in just about every team in the competition.
The Storm beat the Manly Sea Eagles and the Parramatta Eels to grab the premierships in 2007 and 2009. For the defeated, enthusiasm for the record to be set straight.
Oh, we'd happily take it, but you could probably argue that the team that came ninth, missed out on the semis last year, would put their hand up and say, hey, we should have been part of that mix. So.
Now the premiership ladder has a dramatically different look. From fourth place, Melbourne has plummeted to the bottom of the ladder with no hope of leaving it for the rest of the season. Fiona Pye, 9 News.
As we've seen, the NRL has taken strong action, and now the matter's in the hands of police. On tonight's footy show, there was an outpouring of emotion, with league identities wondering aloud and expressing dismay and disdain over the Storm's disgrace.
This has been going on for 5 years to the tune of $1.7 million. For 5 years. How does it get to this extent without being picked up by someone along the way? Obviously the systems are wrong.
What were they thinking? You just can't get away with that. And they paid an enormous penalty, and they deserve to, because, as you said, they cheated, and you can't do that.
Disappointing for the game. I certainly feel for the players, especially the ones that you know, had no idea of what was going on, and to have to play the rest of the season for no competition points will certainly hurt.
As far as I'm concerned, as soon as the Melbourne Storm show they are under the salary cap, they should start playing for points again. Take the 8 points off they've already done, take off their titles, but let's get them active again in this competition. Otherwise, no one's going to go, no one's going to watch them, and they're going to get financially further and further behind with all these fines.
I feel for the fans. You know, I feel for the people such as the Parramatta Eels last year in the grand final. But at the same time, I just don't know from here. Mate, the game is strong. This won't break the game, but at the same time, you know, it's just one of those tough weeks in rugby league where everything's going great, and then this is like lightning.
People down there, given the charter of selling rugby league to the Melbourne public, you know, got beyond themselves and got beyond their means in what they had to do that. You know, they're still struggling to get a foothold in Melbourne down there. They've now got a new stadium, and with this news, it just undoes all the good work that's been done down there over the past decade. All the money that News Limited has voluntarily poured into Melbourne to try and make it work. It just undoes a lot. I don't think they can survive. I really don't. I think this could end up being, when it all comes out, I think this could end up being the death of Melbourne.
We cross now to Rugby League reporter Danny Weidler, who's at NRL headquarters in Sydney. And Danny, just how much damage has this done to the game?
It's going to be hard to tell exactly how much, but the immediate impact is enormous, because Melbourne Storm are the team that everybody thought would win this competition. They're the team that's had the dynasty. They're the team that really has set the standard for the entire competition for probably the last 5 or 6 years. They've won 2 competitions, which now have been taken away. It's going to cause enormous damage in the short term. You know, people are going to look at all rugby league teams now with suspicion. Fans are going to be so angry, so hurt and so cheated, particularly from Manly and Parramatta, who have lost grand finals to the mighty Melbourne Storm team in recent years. They're going to be up in arms in days. And look, I think that officials from the game are all going to be under having a suspicious eye cast on them now, unfortunately for them. Players are going to also be in a similar situation. It's going to have wide-ranging effects, and probably on the actual competition. You know, any team that wins the competition this year, people are going to ask, are they really the best team in the NRL?
Well, you've put it spot on about this suspicion. I mean, other people are asking also, how could this have happened without the players knowing?
Well, they probably would look in their bank balances and be quite happy at what they were getting. I'd be stunned if 1 or 2 or some or maybe all of the players didn't have some inkling of something that was going on, because they were all being obviously quite well paid. And we've heard time and time again that Melbourne have to release players for salary cap reasons. They can't keep player X or player Y. For example, Dallas Johnson was let go, one of their workaholic players this year, let go, you know, not long ago because of salary cap reasons. And now we have to wonder, you know, how much truth was there to that and other situations.
Okay, Danny Weidler, thanks for bringing us up to date.
Thanks, Kelly.